Welcome back. I'm Disco Craig, and today we're going to talk about some fantasy sports, right? Obviously, huge sports fan. Cubs, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, uh, Bills too. Actually, I got Josh Allen on the wall over there. Uh, but we want to talk some fantasy sports, right? I'm an avid fantasy sports player. Love sports, love fantasy. However, over the past, I don't know, let's see, 10 years, fantasy sports has become a different game for me, right? This probably started in 2018, 2017 or 2018, maybe 2019. And it all began in fantasy baseball. Right? I played daily fantasy baseball, a couple teams, about three or four. And some of you probably are scared off by that, but yeah, I'm pretty dedicated to it. And I mean, I absolutely love baseball, right? And this strategy, or this, I shouldn't say strategy, that's for another video, actually. Uh, this idea came to me while playing fantasy baseball. It kind of was occurring to me with football. And then after the last 2 years of basketball, it became extremely apparent, right? These players are investments. They want them to be healthy all the time, yada, yada, yada. The hyper specific training we have. If you check out my other video, protecting your $300 million investment with a stationary bike, I say some of these same things, and it's come down to this. And as in the title, fantasy sports is no longer fantasy sports. It is fantasy injury management, right? In basketball, with the tanking, the resting back to backs, the actual injuries. Dude, this year on my roster, I think it's 15 plus a couple IL spots. And this is just me. I run the league. It is multiple other teams in the league have had 7, 8 guys hurt or game time decisions or resting. How are we supposed to play fantasy sports if half of our players aren't playing? Right? In baseball, all the pitchers are getting hurt. Other dudes are resting at least once a week, right? And how are we supposed to how is it fantasy sports when they're all hurt? I can't drop my first and second picks, not if they're not out for the season. So they're just sitting on your bench taking up space. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, I apply this to football, but I think football's kind of been like this almost my entire life. And I'm very excited for football. Thank God they started protecting the quarterbacks. It's made the game way better. But your wide receivers, like Neighbors and Evans with his hammies, and running backs in their ACLs, the Achilles injuries, patellar tendons, shredding knees and ankles. Man, it becomes hard to play these games. I still love it, but it is no longer fantasy sports. We're not playing fantasy sports anymore. We're playing fantasy injury management. And this is actually part one of a summer part series. And since it's spring and spring training has started, I'm going to start with baseball. That will be the next series of videos. And I also that strategy is very successful, especially in certain leagues. And I'll also go through it with basketball eventually. As that strategy, I can apply it to basketball, and that's extremely consistent. I've tried applying it to football, but football is an absolute crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen in football. As long as your team is healthy, you win, right? There's no managing football with only 16 games. Well, what is it? 12 or 14 games in the regular season, 13 games in the regular season for fantasy. It's not a large enough sample size to actually be able to figure it out. We can do all this data management. We can do all these predictions and use all this math. But it doesn't matter if these players get hurt, So I'd like to introduce you to fantasy injury management. And again, I will have a series on baseball. I'll link that. I'll probably link that in the comments. You'll be able to find it. Just type in fantasy injury management strategy baseball. Uh, and then I will do basketball, fantasy injury management basketball. And I guess I can do football, but I don't know. Football's ridiculous. I'm not very good at football. I try all kinds of strategies, picking first, picking last, picking middle, taking all running backs, taking all wideouts. I don't know. Football's fucking. I love football, but it's so hard to play fantasy football. So, yeah, that's just kind of the way I feel about fantasy sports these days. And if you want to check it out, if you play fantasy baseball or basketball, I highly recommend checking it out. There's it's not a very sophisticated strategy or system, but I find it to be very efficient. So, yeah, fantasy sports is fantasy injury management.